probably hear I'm doing some washing. Just about to make dinner. It's getting towards late afternoon, and I thought I'd try and make something healthy for tonight. But I was just checking in on my physical energy, and I suddenly felt quite tired. I just washed my water bottle that I use for home. I don't wash often enough, but and there was a moment of me just thinking, is this gonna add too much stress to my sort of body and mind to try and push myself to cook at this moment? And I think part of it answered itself, where I just wasn't able to do it. I think maybe a lack of physical energy or a bit of mental exhaustion as well. So I wanted to vlog, and I was thinking of doing it earlier in the day than I thought. In a kind of moment, spontaneous moment, I thought, perhaps I can put on something to watch, like a podcast, and begin cooking. But then, equally as quick, there was the sort of checking in of my body and my mind. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to cook tonight. It feels more and more like the day's unpredictable of what I'll be able to do one moment to the next. I guess sometimes I get insights where I think, I won't cook today, it's just going to be too stressful to think about it. But right now it doesn't feel that way. It feels like, although I'm feeling tired right now in this moment, I haven't kind of ruled out trying to cook tonight. Be good to share a little bit about this morning. I actually ran out of underwear, which is a funny situation. I've been there many times. So I was getting ready to kind of shower, and then I realised it wasn't an option. And part of me was relieved, because I felt like, I didn't have to shower today, because it's been such a struggle to shower. And so I kind of used that momentum to get out to the park, which was kind of a little bit of my intention anyway to try and do, but I kind of almost like I called a bit of a break, and I used that momentum to I made a cup of coffee, and I went straight to the park, and I began listening to an audiobook, and just looking at the trees there. It's been a bit of a medicine for me recently, just to look at the trees and the open space there. It can get busy at times. I think with the weather being a bit colder, it's probably works in my favour, where there's probably less people sort of, when it was warmer, just sort of sunbathing and hanging out there. But I find that quite medicinal. Just I sat there for maybe a good hour and a half or so. I actually switched benches in the end. I realised one bench on the other side of the park has better reception. Maybe it's closer to a tower. And the longer I sat there and sort of acknowledging the time gone by, it was I was there was a thought of perhaps I could do this more often, and there was immediate thought of, I should do this every day, and I don't know, there's a realization that I can't it's a bit dangerous to think that way nowadays for my health. Immediately put pressure on myself to do that, but perhaps trying to do that more often would be good. I kind of had that intention about getting some morning sunshine and light to help my sleep, so it was good I did that. And I may potentially go out to the park again. I'm not sure. I'm feeling very sort of tired and a bit spacey as well, so that's another thing I'll talk about a bit more in a second in regards to dissociation. But yeah, just to acknowledge I probably looked, from passers-by or people observing me, I probably looked a bit high because I was not in the sense I was looking up, which I was most of the time, but I was like just sort of being mesmerized by the tree. And I can imagine somebody thinking, oh, he's had something, or he smoked something, or taken something, but something in his coffee maybe. But I find it quite medicinal just to be really present, as sometimes odd as it may look, just to kind of stare out and not have that sort of social mask on of looking normal. But really just forgetting everything and just really sort of getting lost in that and being present with nature. So I kind of did that a lot. I found while listening to the audiobook there was lots of sort of dissociation happening. It was very hard for me to concentrate on the audiobook, and I think the dissociation was, it felt like even though I had headphones on, the voice that was reading the audiobook was like, there's almost a gap between the voice and my ears. There's a huge space there, so I'd kind of sort of be listening. It's like listening to a conversation in a room that's closed the door, a little bit like that maybe, where it was hard for me to keep my attention on it. And quite a few times I'd go back to, there's a button where you can go back 30 seconds, and I would quite often tap that to go back. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I guess sort of dissociation and trying to be mindful, there's certain similar qualities. They're not the same, of course, but maybe there's something about the qualities in those that serve me. Well, I'm trying to be more mindful and present, and then I don't know, dissociation happens because of a coping mechanism, but yeah, it was I felt quite, I was giving myself all I needed being at the park, so I'm not going to try and put pressure on myself, but it would be a good idea if I was able to sort of try and aim to spend some mornings there. I think that would be good. Then when I got back, I was a little bit tired and I was a little bit hungry, but I think when I got back I just sat down again. I was just feeling maybe a bit lethargic or tired, and then I got to the point where I was quite hungry, but I didn't have the strength to make like a salad sandwich, is what I usually make, and also the avocados I bought haven't ripened enough, so without that it's hard to make just like a sort of salad sandwich on its own without, I find that's it's a bit too plain. So I've stopped using cheese a long while ago, just usually what I put in there. And I guess also I was just probably, even if the avocado was there, I'd probably be too tired to make it. So I ended up having some beans on toast, which wasn't I wouldn't say it's unhealthy, but it's probably not great to have often, which is I kind of have had that often in the last couple of weeks. And it would be good to kind of vary my diet and my health. Yeah, like even now I feel it's easy for me to drift off somewhere else. It's hard for me to sort of keep my attention. Maybe part of that's just feeling very tired. I haven't done too much exercise today, so I think maybe that's playing a part. There was the idea to do a bit of walking in the park, but as I got there with some coffee, I find it's a bit awkward to try and walk and to drink the coffee, and after sitting for a while, I decided to upload an old recording for a TV series I did, so I uploaded that on the other channel, and so that's why I switched benches, and it took a long time to do, so I was kind of hanging in there waiting for it to upload, then to go back home, so there wasn't really sort of time to initially, or convenience to do a walk around the park. So maybe that's something to filter in next time I go there, whether I take a coffee, then I can sort of drink that first by sitting down, and then have the intention to do a bit of a walk around if I can. Of course, there's the option to go there and do a bit of a walk and a sit down, and then have a coffee when I come back, perhaps also to keep things flexible. Yeah, so today I'm struggling with food a little bit in regards to having sort of adequate sort of meals, and struggling with physical energy, mental fatigue, and sort of dissociation is I think it's been there sort of the whole time since I mentioned it a few vlogs ago, and it was mentioning counselling. I think it was either my counsellor said, do you think it's just been there and still, and you've just gotten used to it, which I thought was a really good point, because sometimes I find the human body is so good at adapting or getting used to things. I'm just wondering if I've just gotten used to those symptoms, and it's been less noticeable. Today, dissociation seems a bit more severe, so maybe I'm noticing it more, or I'm aware of. It's only Friday I had my counselling session. Whether that it's made me more aware. In amongst all of that, there was a spell of, it feels weird to say in amongst because I feel so fatigued now, but it was a spell of just mental energy I had, and that sort of energy, it's almost like I felt a little bit like my old self. There was like a break in the clouds where there was a sense of energy of wanting to heal and be productive and do things, and so right now it doesn't feel, with feeling so unwell, it can feel like lots of dark clouds compressing, and there isn't really the energy to there isn't really the energy to try and actively heal, in the sense of seeking out books, and in that sense I'm doing what I can, but so there's just a moment earlier today, and in that moment I thought about there's a channel called The Holistic Psychologist, where I've been checking in with that Twitter account, I guess you'd call it, and a lot of it I can kind of relate to, especially the stuff about recently about sort of parents, and it was mentioned narcissistic parents, and I don't know too much about that, but some of the qualities of that was mentioned there felt very close to how I'm feeling at my situation. And so there was in that sort of little burst of energy, I kind of sort of typed in a few search things of blogs, or things I wanted to read, and articles and things based on that sort of codependency or narcissistic parents, and reparenting, and things, other phrases I've heard being used by this psychologist. And it's strange because like right now it feels like it would take a huge effort to kind of go into that and delve into it and read, and there's almost a glimmer of what things were like not feeling the way I'm feeling, or the unwellness. It's almost and it's such a contrast. It's I'm trying to put words to it, but yeah, it's like a huge contrast of having that sort of burst of energy and wanting to investigate yourself and actively sort of heal and realize, okay, this is the situations I've been through with my parents, or what my body and mind has been through, and what I can actively do. But right now it's it feels like that's wearing off, that sort of energy, and I wonder what the source of that was. I wonder if it's just maybe it could be a mix of things. I know my sleep is better than what it has been in the last few weeks. It's nowhere near to where I need it to be, my sleep, but it's from having severe broken sleep and waking up at 5 a.m, it's a lot more improved than that. So I found myself, when that burst of mental energy came, that clarity, I was just acknowledged it, and I was kind of grateful it was there. And then I immediately it was like a bit of a natural thing to have that burst of energy, to want to, let's work on myself, or let's do what I need to do to help the suffering and the pain I'm in. And then suddenly it's kind of dissolved again, and so it's just sort of accepting that for the time being is my situation. But in a sense, I don't want to get like hopeful that I can try and get that back. I guess it's more of a focus of just try my best to do healthy activities and healthy, just to do healthy things and ground myself in that, and whatever the result is, however much that helps. So there's no sort of pressure or strain or expectations that I'm putting on myself. But I find I've closely relate to what the psychologist was saying, and it made me realise that in order for me to perhaps have a better understanding of what's going on with my mind, that I'd need to kind of sort of investigate this, how this applies to me, like all of that sort of talk about having that kind of parent. Made me think about the letter as well, because it was like I wanted to almost reference what was said by the psychologist, say, look, this is what's going on, but of course there's no easy way to sort of blend that into the letter, and write it in a non sort of harsh way where there's no blame placed, but there's a sort of reality check of what's actually gone on, during me growing up, perhaps. But I guess it's maybe good to focus on that, just with those little insights of the psychologist's tweets about sort of narcissistic parents or growing up with that kind of those kind of qualities. It helped give a little bit of an insight, and I guess on the most basic level I could really relate to that. I thought, oh, okay, that explains some things. And I think the result of being raised in that sort of way, I mentioned there was like social anxiety or codependency, or where there's no space to almost develop your own sense of self and feelings and trusting those, and it really makes sense in how I am. I think people pleasing was another aspect of that, where you're kind of learning to survive in that environment versus in terms of thriving and growing and defining yourself and exploring yourself. It's more just sort of surviving in that difficult environment, and there's lots of results, and part of that social anxiety or codependency. I have some sort of basic understanding on codependency, especially how it relates to me with the loss of self. That really hits home a lot, where I think all the time that was lost. I was just doing my best to sort of, without trying to maybe go into detail, trying to please sort of family and not get on the wrong side of them. So I'm suddenly being hit with this sort of energy and not sure what to do. If I feel a little bit dizzy as well, so maybe I need to drink a bit more water. I think I don't know how my hydration's been today. I've just had a fair amount not too long ago, but I feel like maybe I still need some more hydration, and maybe I can just sort of stand up after recording this and just do a little sort of pacing back and forth, just to get some circulation going, maybe. And I'm hoping some energy will come that will give me the inclination to cook, to have something a bit more nutritious this evening, because otherwise I'm kind of out of options really. I've got some pasta and pastos, but I don't know not sure if I even like it anymore. Funny thing to say. I think cheese makes everything better. So in my old days, it's make some pasta and grate some cheese on top, which would make it. But just because of my IBS, I've been sort of trying to cut back on dairy products. And I guess my appetite is not adjusted to not having that. So maybe right now it's just to focus on how I'm feeling and trying to taking care of that right now. So whether it's a bit of hydration, maybe just standing up for a bit, getting some circulation. There was a sort of noticing of checking in on myself, as I said, with the cooking, and realizing that it's going to really add stress to my body to kind of push myself when I'm feeling exhausted. And there was also a noticing where I kind of pull on another podcast, and I realized that even though it's comforting to have that on, my mind is already tired from listening. I just listened to another sort of podcast on chess, sort of semi-listened to that, and so I was just checking in on my stamina and my mind, and realizing that yes, it would be sort of enjoyable to listen to, but I'll be stressing my mind by listening to it because it's already perhaps exhausted. So I'm glad I kind of caught that within myself, because there's the kind of often habit of using sort of YouTube or any sort of video content to kind of comfort and soothe, and it's something that I need to be a bit more aware of, because sometimes it means I'm avoiding my present feelings, and sometimes important information gets missed, like actually my mind doesn't want to listen to another podcast, it needs some rest, and with that it may bring up some pain or other things that part of my mind is probably trying to avoid, which is distracting it with listening stuff, or making the task of trying to cook a bit easier with putting something on. But it's good just to be aware of that for myself. There were some thoughts about tomorrow of maybe walking to a cafe to do some writing, or just to experiment to see if I can do any work on my novel. That's there. And part of the motivation behind that was to a change of scenery, and also some exercise, because to walk there may take about sort of half an hour to walk there, so it's an excuse to get some exercise as well. And also perhaps I could pick up any sort of other sort of groceries that I might need. But I'll see how I feel tomorrow, how I wake up tomorrow morning. I'm not sure how this evening's going to go. It feels like I just need to take care of how I'm feeling right now. So in sort of previous times when I'm feeling this tired, I've sometimes taken or tried to take a nap. I never really fall asleep, but just to close my eyes and lie down. But I feel like it's a bit late in the day to do that, in case I do have some sleep. And last thing I want to do is sort of is disrupt my sort of main sleep in the evening tonight. So I'll see how it goes. And just a note on the audiobooks, the one I was listening to at the park. I think listening to audiobooks is a bit of a challenge for me, just of concentration, and it's obviously a continuous sort of voice in that way, and it just maybe it's kind of hard for me to absorb. And a lot of it depends on the narrator and how it's read, because I find with my sensitivity, sometimes when I'm struggling with it already and there's a difficult or a narrator that sort of doesn't chime, or it's not pleasant for me to listen to, or it's hard to keep up what they're saying, then it's easy for me to sort of put the book down. And I've kind of been going through several different books really after listening for a short period and not dialing into that. And there was a kind of a young adult audiobook that I went through, and the premise sounded interesting, and I think maybe it's a mix of the narrator and maybe I wasn't connected to the story, and so I kind of returned that as well. I find with the library app I've got, it's obviously just a few taps of a button and you've returned a book and you can get out another one. But I listened to this non-fiction book that I had on my app for a while, and it's about a GP doctor, who talks about just her journey about dealing with patients and her approach to it, like her holistic approach. I can't remember what the title is called now. I don't know if it's called How Can I Help? I think it's called, by Dr. Laura. Can't remember the last names. I won't try and guess. But yeah, I find that really sort of soothing and therapeutic to listen to. She narrates it herself, and she narrates it in a holistic way. Very kind of, a lot of audiobooks are quite fast, and but this is not so. It's at a slower pace, which I found really helpful, and it's kind of a soothing quality to her voice and the energy that she read her own book with. And it's also therapeutic because she's talking about patients who are struggling in difficulties, and so it's nice. As I was uploading a video to the other channel, I was kind of listening to that, and while sort of getting lost in the trees, and it was nice. It was nice to listen to that. So yeah, I was just kind of grateful. There was a thought about maybe creating a video on the other channel about the book, which maybe I'll do potentially. If I find it's an enjoyable, if it's something that I feel like will be enjoyable to do, then keep that in mind. But yeah, kind of grateful for that. Yeah, probably good to end this here, as I'm struggling a bit more of energy. But so yeah, a bit of a mystery for this evening of what I'm going to do, and some intentions for tomorrow. But yeah, just an important acknowledgement that I'm just sort of taking things slow, or one step at a time, and checking in with my mind and body. That's kind of my main helpful tool for me to use right now in regards to my health. And so yeah, it's